The Webflow UI is changing all the time, but their current version is the worst version I've ever seen. It has gotten so bad that I have to make this video to raise my voice and maybe share it with you, and maybe you think the same, or maybe you disagree with me. So I'll show you some actual, like, real world scenarios where it's bad and why is it so bad. So here we have actually 3 versions of the UI, and we'll go through quite a few things step by step, and I'll explain why are they so bad. Starting with this eye icon. It was an eye icon. That's the preview button to see your designs and animations, preview them. It was on the left, but then they moved it to the right and made it to be this kind of like play button. And in the last version, end of 2024, they moved it to the left back, and they put it next to this design mode, CMS, and analytics. Everything kind of like talked together to make sense of the life cycle of design or something like this. But just this small change is causing a lot of issue. To name one, I've been suffering from carpal tunnel. My hands hurt because I work with the computer, with the mouse a ton. And the new Webflow changes actually made me notice the pain again, because I'm not using Webflow more than normal because my hands have to travel significantly more. So I'm talking about the mouse movement. With the new design changes they made, my mouse has to move a lot more to basically do the same thing. For the start, let's look at how it actually works. So we are in design mode, and I can click on preview, and you just saw it here. The button moves, so these icons are animated. And from what I understand, this is kind of like something that you don't do in terms of UX in like app design. When you create a web app, you don't make the navigation move because of this. So I'm previewing and I exit preview. Why? Because I want to see this animation, and look what happens if I want to see it again and again. If I double click, now I'm inside. Why? Because the button moves and the rest of the UI moves. I cannot do double click. So if I want to do double click for, not quite double click, but like click twice to see the animation twice to get a feeling for it, I have to be really careful to not move my mouse. This is just one issue. As you saw, one of the things that we do is see the design and then adjust it, change it. So I have now to travel here to bring the mouse here to change things, to publish, and then go back to, for example, preview again. And I'm creating this kind of like triangle that is a lot of mouse travel compared to before, where we had this icon, this preview here. So everything was kind of like happening here. On the left side, we have the navigator. This is where we use a lot of shortcuts. And I know you could use also Option P shortcut, but it's kind of like far. I don't use it all that much. And also to add to the hand thing is I'm an educator. I make videos about Webflow. I have a course. For a lot of things, I don't want to use shortcuts because I'm showing it in a video. It doesn't make sense. Where I use shortcut is for navigations and adding div blocks and things like this, and also adding a new class. So now talking about the new class, where we spend most of the time is here in the UI, clicking around and making the design changes. If we look at the Webflow UI, where we spend a lot of time is kind of like the top 50%. That brings me to the next change that they made. And I think that one is somehow even worse. And that is this breakpoint control. I do not understand why they moved it from the perfect place that was in the center here. It made sense to this corner, and they duplicated it. So you see we have this desktop here, we have it here again. And if I click on tablet, we see it double, and I can also do it from here, but it requires double click. And again, you can do it with shortcuts, but a lot of times I prefer just clicking. In the previous version, I could live here and here, and of course the style here. So it was a much smaller triangle in opposed to now that is a much bigger one that I can definitely notice. What is quite funny about this little bar is that I can actually go to settings and put it on the top, but it somehow makes things even more ugly because now I have a duplication. And this is not great design. And actually, I have a suggestion. So my suggestion, again, doesn't solve every single problem, but it's a start. So I would suggest putting the language thing control, like for the localization, where the current, the preview button is. I think that's a perfect place for it. And we can show the details to its right side, and that would be fine. And then have these controls back where they were. And on the right, we can have our preview button next to publish and share and the design and edit mode, where what I think makes much more sense. And even the comments, I mean, I don't use them all that much, almost never, but they could go here as well. One last thing now that we are at it, this code icon, so the code export icon, that nobody uses. I know. I don't know anybody who actually regularly uses this. And that's why Webflow removed it. So it existed at some time, but they removed it from the UI. So the function still exists, but it's under the menu on the top left corner. But I would suggest adding it back to the UI as a statement. It's kind of like showcasing what Webflow can do, getting the clean code written by just clicking around, and clicking on this can show that, hey, this is your code, you can take it with you. It's kind of like, I would say it's a marketing and also statement that I just find pity to be lost, that it's taken away, at least visually. The functionality still is there. Here back to Webflow, I have a client example where I can actually show you in like actual context how the top menu behaves. So here we have localization. It makes sense to have the local here, and then we have the page, and then the CMS item, the status. All of this makes sense, but they could be on the left to be, I would say, more cleaner and have the breakpoints all at the center. That would, to me, make much more sense and also solve this entire mouse travel issue that is going a huge amount of distance compared to before. And it's not something that I alone notice. I asked some friends, I asked some teammates, everybody has noticed this. Now that we are talking about UI changes and things that has gotten worse, let's talk about the CMS publication issue. It's not exactly UI, but somehow it is because UI can solve it. It's this issue that if you change the CMS, it goes to draft, which doesn't make sense at all. But first, before I show you, let me bring this back to bottom because it hurts my eyes so bad. All right, so here we have this career page, and let's say I have this item. As you see, it's clearly coming from CMS, and I can change the content here on the canvas. Webflow allows me to change the content. So let's see what happens if I remove visual identity, leave it at that end, and I wait for things to change, or I just publish. All right, the site is published. So we made a change, we publish the site, we go to the site, the change is not made. And if I'm the client, I have no freaking idea why. Why is this the thing? And I have nowhere in the UI indicating what is wrong. So I have to go to the CMS, and then in carriers, I see that my item has turned into a draft. Why? Because if I change something in the new CMS setup, automatically it's a draft. I have to go to publish now or queue it for publish, and then the changes will be applied. Otherwise, it's a draft. I think this is it just doesn't make sense, because a lot of places where we use the CMS is not for blog or like job listings. Sometimes we use it for a slider. or for a testimonial slider. It's things like this, where the user, the client changes everything, not from, within the CMS, they change it from the designer, and they expect things to go live, but they don't. And we've had already quite a few clients asking like, why the changes are not happening. And I'm like, yeah, you have to go to the CMS, you have to publish things, and yeah, it's a mess. Now that we are at that, actually, I didn't have this in my notes to talk about, but let me rant about the CMS a little bit more. What is really difficult is to hop between CMS items, and this is just not, it doesn't feel like a modern tool anymore. In 2025, everything requires so many clicks and it feels like too safe, like too many safeguards. So if I change something here, I can't just, click off of it and go somewhere else. It requires me to discard the changes or, something like this. And the issue with this is, I know it's for safety, but in so many cases, you have so many CMS items and you have to do so many clicks around that this just becomes way too difficult. Not to mention that things are actually slow, but clicking around many items is not really fast. Like duplicating items, this one happened just basically instantly, but they are not always fast. And wait, if I duplicate, yeah, we already, now here we see another kind of like UI bug that I still see this one where it says new career. And wait, what happened if I click it? Nothing happened because did I find a bug while recording? Where is the duplicate button for this one? It was gone. So, okay. I click duplicate. I see that this is visually showing me something that is not correct. This shouldn't be highlighted. This is what needs to be highlighted. And the name is not new career. It's brand designer, web and copy 2 should be here. But if I click it, it goes away. And I'm like, what is this? What happens if I click it? Save, create save draft. This is what I'm saying. Like, I know this is a bug, but sometimes it feels really slow. And it didn't happen because, okay, this is like definitely a bug. I know, Webflow, I'm gonna share this with you. You'll fix this fast. By the way, now that we are towards the end of the video, let me give myself and my team a shout out. Everything that you see here, these are not screenshots. I mean, well, these are screenshots in Figma, but we didn't go back. We can't go back in time and make screenshots for this video. These pieces of the UI, we have actually made them in Webflow. We made the entire Webflow UI in Webflow. All of these, multiple versions, even the suggestion ones. And not just that, actually the Figma UI as well. So let me show you this. I used it to make this video, so let me give the shout out. I'm calling it chicken or egg. Which one came first? So when you load the project, you see the Webflow UI and the Figma UI, and everything that you see here is not a screenshot. Everything here is like div blocks that we made, and that are, some of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are actually interactive. So you can interact with them. So for example, on the Figma one, I can go back and see the projects here. I can even go to list. I can go to theme and click dark. And then from here, I can open one of these projects. Here we can zoom in, and you see some of these, we can just click them around, open them. The pages one is also something that we can open. Also the styling panels, we can click things around. I know it doesn't make sense to have Webflow UI inside of Figma to be interactive, but whatever, we made it work. And even the Figma UI, again, like everything here, pretty much everything is interactive. You can even go to dev mode. There's just so much you can do. Again, this needs a separate video. But for example, you can, I don't know, just randomly, if I click here, I can change the width. I know it breaks things, but whatever. We are doing this for science. And yeah, you can change the flex box and the CSS properties to break it. I'll show you one last thing about this. It depends on where you want to look at this. Let's zoom in and see what we have here. So inside of the canvas, we see actually the Figma landing page. So this is the landing page of figma.com. Inside of Figma landing page, Figma itself, they have a screenshot of the Figma UI. But instead of putting the screenshot, we put in the entire Figma app inside it. So you see, like, it has pretty much everything. And you can click inside. And then that is inside of the landing page, obviously, which we assume it's not made with Webflow, but well, you could make it with Webflow. That's the argument. So the entire thing is inside of the Webflow UI, and then the entire thing is inside of a Figma canvas, and then all of this were made inside of Webflow. And this is kind of the layers, just to see a little bit of the madness. And making this, one of the hardest thing about it is what you look at. It becomes so difficult to understand what you have to look at. But yeah, requires a separate video. Let me know what you want to know about this madness. The whole point of this was showcasing what's capable with Webflow, and now you see, and it was really useful for the making of this video, going back in the versions we made, because as we were making this, Webflow changed the UI every time, and we updated it every single time. That's why we have multiple versions. We kind of have a history of Webflow UI, and we might, that this is one of the considerations, to make kind of like a project with it where you can go back in time and change and see the different UIs in time. Same goes for Figma. This is kind of like the third version we made. We made other versions and Figma changed it. And I know they change it now again, where the panels are not kind of like floating, like you see past these corners. They changed that back. They reverted it. And I think that's what Webflow also needs to do about a few things in the UI. But we kept it like this for this project, for Chicken or Egg, because it just looks a bit more sleek, a bit more fun. But yeah, this was it. I hope you made it to the end of my rant. You heard my complaints. We found a bug. Consider this an Easter egg. I hope Webflow will fix it and also will fix the rest of the UI. But let me know what you think. Do you feel the pain? Or do you think the things that I'm saying are not really justified? And also let me know what you want to know about the chicken or egg project. I just want to hear what you think, what you want to know about it, and I'll chat with you in the comments. Thank you for watching, and talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.